In today's video, we're going to go ahead and take a look at locking off these branching paths. So as you see, we went up the left side and we cannot go up the right side here at all. And we're going to take a look at being able to have two parents so that this node, this skill here on the end, can be accessed by getting the top skill or the bottom skill. Alright, so first off, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to do the skill lock. Since we don't have to do a whole lot to do that, we just got to make a slight modification. And it'll work just like our old skill system did. So if you haven't seen the old skill tree video, go ahead and click it. It should be in one of these top corners. As long as I remember to put a card in there, which I should. So if we look in, these are all normal. Everything is the exact same as it was. You can just ignore these three here. These three are just going to be used, for our example, for the... my mind just went blank. Two parent situations so that you can unlock a skill by accessing either parent. So ignoring these three here, our scene is set up exactly as it was with the old video. Alright, so we're going to come here. We're going to have our base node here, and then we have one branch going to the left, one branch going to the right. Now, how are we going to set this up? Well, we're going to be able to access the one on our left and not the one on the right. So we're just going to go in and modify the node, right? So our script for our skill node that we already have. And what I'm going to do is we're going to add two more variables. They're going to be two exports. We're going to have a path lock and path to lock. So path lock is just going to simply let us know, do we need to lock off a path or not? And then our path to lock will set up in the inspector, and that's just going to be telling our code what path to lock off. So if I come down to 3 here, if we take a look, I'm sorry, button, well, 2 and 3 for this. But I'll start with button 2. I'm going to go ahead and lock path. I'm going to turn that on here in the inspector. And I'm going to go to path to lock. I'm going to select that, and I'm going to select skill 3. Because my skill button 3 is going to be this path here. So with that, if I unlock skill button 2, then button 3 here is going to get locked off to us, and we cannot click it anymore. Right? And the same thing, we'll go to skill button 3. We'll lock off a path, so we'll turn that on, path lock. And for the path to lock, we're going to tell it to lock out path for skill button 2. All right, so that's how you would set that up. So if you wanted to do that with the next branch going up, then here we have skill button 4, and here we have skill button 6. So 4 would have path lock turned on, path to lock would be skill button 6. And then 6, we would turn path lock on, and path to lock, we would select skill button 4. Now we can only get this skill or this skill. We cannot get them both here. So we can't go up both paths. So it's as simple as that. It's two variables that we have to set up there. Very easy. Now for the rest of the script, we only have to make one more modification. So if I just scroll on down, we're down here to our on pressed section. So whenever we're leveling up our skills, if I open up this is all we're going to do. We're going to say if path lock and path to lock. So we're saying if we have this checked off, so we do want to lock a path, and path to lock, which is just going to check that we have a node selected in our path to lock variable. So this is going to basically allow us to make sure that we actually have something instead of running into an error. So what you could do here is you could then, if you wanted to go else, and then you could push an error, path not selected in inspector, for example. So you can do something like that. I'm not gonna have that there. I don't need that. But if you need that reminder, because maybe you forget to do things in the inspector, or you forget to set things up constantly, maybe that's something for you. Maybe that's something that you need to work on for this year. But either way, so we're just setting up. So if we want to lock a path, we have a path that we want to lock. then all we're going to do is say, if that's not disabled, disable it. Right? So if that option is selectable, no longer make it selectable. And I believe that's all we need to do for the path lock to work. Now we can come on in and we can run it. And I still have this set up with 2 instances, but you see, we can come in, get our root. We can get the left side. Now that we have one selected there, we cannot select the right branch anymore, but we can continue up that left side. And with our other instance here, we can get our first one, and then we can, if we go up the right side, we can no longer select the left branch anymore. And remember, we set up our left and right here as well. So if I select the left side, we can no longer go up the right branch again. So doing pathing locks like this, very simple and a very minor modification to what we already had. Now, for having 2 parents. So I want this skill here, skill button 5, to have 2 parents. It's going to have skill button and skill button 8. Now you can, of course, you can name these whatever you want. But basically, we're going to have this, our base node here. It's automatically going to have branches going out to both of these nodes automatically, just from the code that we already have pre-existing. And this node here on the end is a child of one of these parents already. So one of those lines is automatically going to be drawn. Now, adding a new line 2D in order for us to draw here and adding points, for whatever reason, wasn't working in the code. It's probably just something minor that I just didn't think of or overlook, but what I did is I just came in, I just added a second line 2D here called skill branch 2 into the actual scene for our skill button. And of course, we're only ever going to see that if we have a second parent. So it's not that big of a deal. And that's just set up exactly the same as our first branch, a 5 of width and the same default color of a light gray. Alright, so remember, we have 2 parents. Our skill is going to be a child of both of them. And inside the skill tree itself, it is a child of one of them. Alright, so let's take a look at the code, the new code that we have to add in here. So with this, we have a couple new variables here that we're going to create. We're going to have one called shared parent. You could also maybe name this shared child. That might make more sense. But as you see, I already have one like that as well. So it's kind of up to you. Of course, you can name these completely different. That's fine. But this is basically just going to be a Boolean. It's going to work like our path lock. So we can check, does this skill have 2 parents, right? Yes or no. That's all we need to know. And then from there, we can make our checks in that. So I have 2 exports here, one for the shared parent and one for shared child. And then I have an on ready just to grab that second skill branch for us. All right, so what we're going to do, the skill that we want to have 2 parents, I'm going to select that in the inspector, and it's shared parent. So remember, it is a child of one parent. And for the shared parent variable, I'm going to set that to the second parent that I want to use. All right, so in my case, that's skill button 8 in my tree. And I have shared button ticked and turned on. Now for the parent that's actually going to be connected here, so skill button 8, I'm going to go ahead and select that. And for the shared child property, I'm going to go ahead and open that, and I'm going to select the child that I want it to have, which is skill button 5 here. Right, so the child has selected its second parent, and the second parent has selected that child. So with those 2 things set, we can now jump into the changes that we need to make in the code. And if I just scroll down, here's our first change. Not really our first, yeah, I guess so. I thought we would be going down. I guess I lumped it all together. So here, I just took our skill branch default color, right? Because normally it's out here. I just stuck it inside of two if statements. So I just said if get parent is a skill node and get parent.level is equal to get parent.max level. So if its parent is fully unlocked, then I'm going to change the color of that line, right, to whatever it is that we want. Which in this case, if we look at it, it's going to be that green color. And I'm using that same color for our second branch as well. And here's where we're going to take a look at the second node. So we'll say if the shared parent is a skill node, not a scare node. It's not Monsters University here. And it has a shared parent. So the same thing. We're saying if it's got a second node, a second parent, and we've selected that in the inspector. So again, you can put the else statement here and say, hey, the shared parent or the shared parent isn't selected here or whatever. Just like we did with the path lock. So if that's set, then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to check the shared parents level and see if that's equal to the shared parents max level. So if that skill, the shared parent skill, is maxed out, then we're going to branch out. We're going to set the color of skill branch 2. And I just remembered it was in ready. That's where I forgot it. Our drop, but we'll get up there in a sec. And here, down here in our skills, remember we have our variable called skills and we're getting all the children. All we're going to do is I'm just going to grab the skills and I'm going to append the shared child into that. And you could do a check for that just to be safe. Just to ensure that there's no issues there altogether, right? So you can say if shared child, and then tab that in. If you just want to have that extra layer of protection to make sure that nothing goes wrong, you could just tuck it inside of an if statement like that if you wanted. And that would be perfectly fine. And really that's all you need to make the two-parent system work. The only other thing that I've modified here is up inside of our ready function. I just went ahead and said if shared parent, right? So if this node has two parents, then I'm just going to draw a line with my skill branch 2, right? I'm just going to add the 2 new points in there. And instead of using get parent, I'm going to use that shared parent for our calculations. Oh, I see I used a get parent there still on the sizing. Not that it matters because they're all the same size, but in this case, I'll make sure I put it as shared parent. And that's effectively what's going to allow us to come on in, right? So we go in. If we access the top, it should be perfectly normal because it is a child of this, and it works. And with the second one, we can go down the bottom branch, the share parent. Now remember, he's checking for his own child for unlocks, which we've added that share child in there. And that should have enabled this to be clicked on. And when I click on this one here, he's going to check his share parent if he's sharing one and see if that is at max level or if its normal parent, right, is max level. In this case, it's the share parent, so this will be our second line here that gets drawn. It's going to light up with green for us. There we go. And if you're curious, you can still go down the alternate path here, so you can still unlock the other skill. We have not locked that off. And unfortunately, you see with this, since we've already maxed out this one, the other branch isn't going to light up. But that's fine. That kind of just lets you know what path you went first. If you want to set that up, you could just add a minor change in there, no problem. But if we have not fully leveled this skill, so you see this one is 2 out of 3, and we fully rank up the previous skill, and then we unlock that one, we'll have both branches lit up there. All right, so there you have it. There's how you can lock off branching paths if you would like to put that into your project. And also how you can have a skill share 2 parents and you can go down either path or both paths. So if you wanted to lock it off, we could apply them both together. So we could do that with our twin parents here. So if we want to mix these two systems together, we can. So I'll go to skill button 8. I'll set path to lock, assign, and I select the other branch above it, right? Skill button, the one above it right here, to lock that side off. And the same thing here, I'll select that one, set path to lock, and set that as skill button 8. Now this is a child, so you would initially think that you wouldn't be able to get it because it's locked off from the top. But because we're using this share parent and share child system that we added in with these variables, we're still going to be able to access it. So now down here at the bottom, we're using the lock system as well as this share system for parent-child. And if we run it, we'll see instance 1 here. We can get our main. We can go up top, and I'm clicking. We cannot get the bottom, so that lock is working. And we can get the one on the end. Now here in our second instance, we'll get our first one. We'll get our second. We can get the bottom. We cannot get the top. And because of our share system, we can still unlock that final one. So you can still merge these together. So if you want to have maybe both paths lead to the same upgrade, but maybe the two paths aren't conflicting. They're both conflicting, right? So maybe one's a stealth perk, one's an attack perk, and then the final one on the end is maybe a bonus damage buff or something. I don't know. And so you want to lock one side off so you can have different play styles. You can set that up. So there you go. You can use these two systems separate, or you can use them together, and they'll work perfectly fine. Not fine. There's no L in the word fine. But with that, take care. Have yourselves a good one, and I'll see you guys next week.